The morning of the wedding arrived, but the celebration never happened. Word of what I'd revealed spread fast, and by noon the ceremony was called off. My brother disappeared, my mother claimed it was all a misunderstanding, and my father muttered that I should have stayed out of it. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. The damage was done, and the truth was finally in the open. Watching them scramble to salvage their image was almost poetic. For years they'd pretended I was the problem, the stain on the family name. Now their perfect son's betrayal was laid bare for everyone to see. My mother tried to pull me aside, speaking in the same clipped tone she'd used the night she threw me out. She said this was for the best, that at least I had forced the truth out before vows were exchanged. I looked at her and realized I didn't feel anger anymore, just distance. They had never truly known me, and they never would. My life had moved on, and their opinion held no weight in it. I told her I'd built a life I was proud of, with people who loved me for exactly who I was. I told her about my partner, my home, my career, the happiness I had carved from nothing. When I left, I didn't slam the door or say goodbye. I simply walked out, feeling lighter than I had in years. They had kicked me out to erase me, but my return had forced them to face the truth they'd spent years hiding. As I drove away, I thought about that 14-year-old kid who had been thrown into the cold. He wouldn't believe how far we'd come, and for the first time I realized I no longer needed them to. The night before the wedding I couldn't sleep. I stepped outside for air, but instead of quiet, I heard hushed voices coming from around the corner. My brother and his fiancée were arguing, the kind of argument where every word carried years of resentment. She accused him of lying, of pretending the past never happened. He told her to shut up before someone heard. I froze when I realized they were talking about me. Her voice cracked as she said my name, followed by words that twisted my stomach. She had been with me before him. The memories slammed back. We had met years before I was kicked out, in the brief period when I was still figuring myself out. She'd been a friend first, someone who listened, who didn't judge, who made me feel safe. When I came out, I thought we'd simply drift apart, but now I understood the truth. She hadn't just drifted. She'd gone straight to my brother, and from the tone of their fight, it had happened before I even left. He hadn't just taken my home from me. He'd taken her too, and done it quietly enough that I never saw it coming. At the rehearsal dinner later, I watched them like a puzzle with missing pieces suddenly snapping together. His forced charm, her tight smile, the way my parents fussed over appearances instead of addressing the tension. It all fit. When I confronted them, the room went silent. My brother denied it, but her tearful silence told the real story. My parents shifted uncomfortably, refusing to look at me. They'd kicked me out for who I was. Yet they defended him while he betrayed his own blood. The hypocrisy burned deeper than any rejection. In that moment, I knew the truth couldn't be buried anymore. When I stepped back into my hometown after a decade, it felt like walking through a frozen memory. Buildings had changed, shops had new signs, but the air carried the same heaviness I remembered. My brother greeted me with a stiff handshake, avoiding eye contact as if unsure how to treat me. My parents looked me over like I was some stranger who'd wandered in, offering polite words but no warmth. I told myself I didn't care, but the truth was, every forced smile scraped at an old wound I thought had healed. Then I met her, my brother's fiancée. She was beautiful in a quiet, graceful way, and from the moment we shook hands, there was an odd tension. She studied me a beat too long, her eyes searching like she was trying to place me. Our small talk was polite, but her smile felt layered, like she was holding back something unspoken. At dinner, I caught her glancing at me more than once, her gaze darting away when our eyes met. It wasn't romantic, it was the kind of look that carried history, though I couldn't place where it came from. The town itself seemed to whisper reminders of everything I'd left behind. Passing my old school, the park where I used to sit alone, even the grocery store where I worked late nights. It all felt like the ghost of another life walking beside me. The closer the wedding day came, the more I noticed subtle cracks in the happy facade. My mother avoided talking about the engagement, my father seemed tense, and my brother snapped at the smallest things. There was a current running under the surface, something unsaid, and every instinct told me that my return had stirred it up. I just didn't know yet how deep it went at AT-14. I stood in the middle of our living room with a small backpack in my hands, wondering how my life had collapsed in just a few hours. My parents' faces were cold, their words sharper than anything I'd ever heard. They said I was a disgrace, that being gay was a sin, and they didn't want that kind of influence under their roof. It didn't matter that I was their child, that I had always tried to make them proud. The only thing that mattered to them was their image, and I no longer fit into it. My father shoved a few crumpled bills into my hand like I was some unwanted tenant being paid to leave. My mother turned her back before I even reached the door. That night I slept on the floor of a friend's basement, staring at the ceiling, trying to understand how love could vanish so fast. The weeks that followed were a blur of uncertainty. I worked odd jobs, cleaning yards, stocking shelves, just to buy food. I learned quickly that survival meant swallowing your pride. School became a refuge, though even there I felt the whispers, the judgment. But I refused to disappear. I studied harder, worked longer, telling myself there had to be more than this small town's cruelty. A scholarship finally became my ticket out. I left without looking back, determined to build a life that proved them wrong. Years passed, and I thought I had buried the pain. But then an envelope arrived. My brother's wedding invitation. Holding it in my hands, I felt a mix of bitterness and curiosity. I had sworn never to return, but something in me wanted them to see who I had become, to look me in the eye and realize they hadn't broken me.